That's a good idea, but not for a new facility.
Right.
Your sister's sneaky.
What?
I just got a notice that Tanner's sending us $60, and I said, "What's that for?" He says, "My cell bill," and Mom told me to put 30.
Had to be paid.
Sure. Well, she tried to pull a sly one on me. She asked me for my account number, and I said, "Why do you need it?" She says, "I just want it."
This is your,
My sister,
We
Ann.
bought a full chicken wire.
Ann.
oh, Ann.
We bought a roll of chicken wire so she could keep her dog in. She goes, "How much today?" And I said, "Nothing." Just they do stuff for us all the time. It's like,
She
don't
tried
worry
to
about
get me to give her our account number, and I wouldn't go for it.
it. Yeah. And then she,
Oh, those were all the same thing. I'm sorry.
Did this just come in?
Okay.
Sir.
August 3rd.
Wow.
Should have brought my glasses.
I know, but wow, awesome. I know I have to take mine off.
Does that mean we're showing, what is that?
We'll have to dissect it. One's for the VOC, one's for the main electrical, and one's for the hallway.
Oh, I see
Yep,
that.
there's
There's
three
just no
columns.
total.
So it'd be 2 million, 1.1 million, and 675,000. So it'd be 3.1, 3.8 million dollars.
And don't we have 4?
4.3 plus some.
Mhm.
So we can.
That's what there's.
4-3, right?
4.3 plus.
Plus the 700 or 600, so it's like 4.
Right.
Actually, we have 4.5.
Five.
Has been spent.
Yeah, because you have to add the 474 or whatever it was that the board allowed,
We
Right.
had
Is
that,
that 4.5 including the,
but it's minus the 300,000 that was already spent.
so we started at 4.3.
Mhm.
I subtracted the 300,000 that's already been spent. And I added the 163,000 we get from Esser for HVAC, and I added the 400,000 that the board transferred over. So you're roughly 4.5 and a half.
Mhm.
how do we arrange these tables?
So does
No,
that,
that's not what I meant.
so does this mean that with what we have here, we have enough with the bids or?
Jan.
No,
Jan.
this didn't change.
That's what I mean.
Same money, same cost.
Mhm.
No different.
So we really don't know.
If this is the final numbers, then nothing's changed.
But we'll have to ask Derek.
It's just $1 million for the VOC.
I
It's
think-
675,000 for
Mhm.
all of it.
No problem.
And
They just-
electricity.
So they haven't
just
done
broke it
any
down.
of our offsets from what we talked about on Monday.
They're working on it right now.
Okay,
Yeah.
so this is pre our discussion.
Yes,
Yeah.
Okay.
yes,
Oh.
yes. Yeah, so the 675 is what the bid came in for the hallway.
Right.
They haven't refigured it for the
And the other
breezeway.
thing, well, taking out the
And the,
generator.
yeah, the electrical includes a generator, and this, so the 1.1 does not factor in taking out the generator. So yeah, this is all, pre-
Pre-decisions from Monday.
yes,
Okay.
yes.
So this was more or less what we already had.
Yes, more, it just. is-
Yes.
So that, yeah, okay.
Just more like
Yeah.
budget, like you asked for, Carol.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, no.
They'll go through it.
I do know that Sarah is on her way around.
Oh, Sarah, for board
Gotcha.
book. Oh,
She's,
Sarah, the
Or
manager.
PIO.
yes,
Yeah.
public information.
Mhm.
Who else is coming?
You didn't bring 'em?
Nope.
I'm
have
not
no clue.
sure.
Who else is missing? Well, we haven't seen Tom Lovejoy in a while.
No, and I noticed on
Seven,
Facebook that his dog
Jamie.
Bailey had to have gallbladder surgery or something at the
Yeah, so
veterinarian
he probably
clinic.
won't be with them.
Yeah.
Tim France is on here, but he's not here.
You won't
Well,
be
he's
here.
on-
He's on vacation.
Oh, okay.
I know,
602.
So, we'll call this meeting to order at 6:02 PM.
Shirley, we live on there.
We are live.
Okay,
Okay,
Good.
awesome. I'm sure everybody needs a little chance to look over our minutes that we've had for the last 2 months. So you guys can get updated on that. So that we can approve the agenda and approve the minutes, please. Oh, yes, excuse me, I'm sorry. Thank you for reminding me. Would everybody like to stand and do the pledge of allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we're on mute, guys.
Do you want me to take the notes to give back to Christine, or are you? Do you want me-
we can take care of Christine.
Okay, well, I just told her I'd check in with her after the meeting was over.
Oh, you can take them if you want.
That's what I bought this for, if you.
It's fine.
Sure.
Jamie does our minutes for us. Thank you, Jamie. Anyway, so has everybody had a chance to look over the agenda? Can I possibly get a motion to approve the agenda for this evening on August 3rd?
Motion to approve the agenda.
So all in favor?
Aye.
Okay, everybody can look over the minutes. We didn't get to it last month, so we do have 2 months of minutes. June and July.
Surely the attachments will be attached online, correct? The
Well,
reports that go,
the reports are already there.
okay,
Devin's put them on, but I
Okay.
have to wait for signatures to put the edit on the.
Earl, you want these one at a time or both at the same time?
We can do both, can't we? I think so. Nobody minds.
I'm just here as an extra body.
Thank you. But it's good to have you here. It's nice to have a board member. Thank you.
Anytime you'd like to invite me, I would love to come.
Okay. I know you're busy. so-
I have more time in the evening.
There she is. Hello, Sarah. Thank you for coming.
Okay. Here are my agenda.
Really glad I brought my glasses.
That's, no, yeah, that's.
I was looking, I had looked, I picked that up. No,
Personal
mine
text,
is-
isn't it?
what in the world?
Yeah, I know.
Temperature.
It is
These
little.
old people eyes don't work quite like they used to.
So does anybody, do we have any questions?
I
or
make a
do I have
motion to approve June 1st and July 6th minutes.
So I have a motion, send a second.
One second.
Second, all in favor? Okay, so superintendent report, Mr. Gallagher?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. A little bit of movement on permits. As you know, the board approved the contract with the county Public Works Department on Monday night. And so I was able to get the signed and notarized contract to the Public Works Department the next morning. And they immediately released the permit for us to start working on the crosswalks and the handicapped access requirements for the preschool. And so again, the county's gonna be doing some of the work up to $4,500 in expense, and we'll be doing the other work. And together we'll get that done. But along with the promise, the Public Works Department signed off on our bond permits and released them to the county for the final okey dokey and signatures and whatever they do. And so I was hoping that I'd have something by 5 o'clock today, but I haven't. So if we, as soon as we receive those 3 permits for the bond project, you'll probably hear a big whoop whoop and holler from me, and I'll be doing cartwheels down the middle of the highway. I'd be very excited. So that's been a long time coming, and we're still slated for August 8th for the earth movers to be here and start throwing dirt. And in visiting with Scott Marshall and Andy from CB Construction, we're going to go ahead and excavate the same footprint on the vocational center as what's been designed. And we have to be careful that we can't go back and redesign everything. Then we started the permitting process all over again.
Yep.
So, you know, we're going to have to approach this project as we'll do what we can afford, and we pause and we see how everything else comes in. And gee, if we can do a little more, we do a little more. But we're really liking the idea of, you know, doing the shell, and we still have to decide what that shell is going to be. You know, the contractors need to have specifics. We're currently working with them to figure that out. And that way we can kind of be watching, be mindful of the budget. We want to stay within the budget and get the biggest bang for the buck as we possibly can. So they're working on those options right now. The budget sheet that you see in front of you, that's in very tiny print, I apologize for that, outlines the 3 different bids that came in. So you see the hallway edition, and that was a $675. And that was the one we're saying, don't think so, rework it. And so they're reworking a breezeway. The other option we may think about is there's not even a breezeway. We do live in rain country and territory. Half of our classrooms, the only entrances in and out of exterior doors. You know, it's not that far to walk to the kitchen cafeteria. I don't know, things to think about. We'll just have to see how the project goes and how the money is flowing. And then the main electrical upgrade, that figure of 1.1 still includes the generator. They're still working those numbers of what would it look like to take out the generator. And if we're not putting in a hallway, how does that affect electrical? Don't know. And of course, the vocational building, that 2.0 you're seeing there, is the whole kit and caboodle, the whole project, and that doesn't take things down to what would the shell cost. We don't know. Yeah, so we're trying to be very cautious with this. I know that CB Construction is still working on a guaranteed maximum pricing. I think they're retooling on their end for CB construction stuff, and then especially on electrical. And we'll just kind of move forward from there. You also see a memo in front of you addressed to the Bond Oversight Committee and Straight Line Architects and CV Construction, outlining what the board approved on Monday night in terms of the priorities 1, 2, and 3. Also, they're wanting to see a Gantt chart, budget numbers with and without modifications. CB will create a list of the ability to get the work done, and they're just prioritize the work and provide dates. So I know they're working on those things as we speak. You also see in your packet the LC project bond update. This is the update I gave to the bond committee the other night. So that's nothing different. And in one of the minutes, I noticed that I would be consulting with counsel on different things, and I think I gave that in. I gave you the details in that bond project update dated April 20th. And that was just the different options, especially, gee, what if the district sent the monies back, what would that look like, and those sorts of things. So really, since we last met Monday night, that's all I have to report. Yes, ma'am.
The question I have is, originally back in June, we thought that the ESSER funds were gonna be closer to 230, 240,000.
Yep.
It came in significantly less.
Yes,
Is
they
there a
did.
reason for that?
It's a matter of just clarification with the state, what actually was available for us for those
Okay.
extra funds. And it was unclear when we first looked at those estimates.
Okay.
And with the new business manager on board, she really did some deep diving to really make sure what that was. And it came in lower than what we expected. So
Well.
I apologize for that, but
Some is better than none.
And what is yeah.
the ESSER fund total?
163,000 and some change. I don't know what the change is. But that will be, those are basically COVID dollars, and that we can apply those dollars to air quality as a way of decreasing exposure to colds and flus and COVID and things like that. So
Still
it's
163.
still
that's a lot.
163,000.
Better
We'll
than
take it.
nothing.
We'll take it.
Right.
Absolutely. So, you know, I was doing some estimating the other night. I just want to remind everybody that we started at 4.3. We've already spent 300,000. I added the ESSER funds. I added what the board had approved for unappropriated, you know, the 400 and what was it, 63, 74. Thank you. I always forget that number. So we're at about 4.5 is what we're at. So if you take these three numbers on the bottom of this budget, you can kind of see how it squeezes. And this does not include the kitchen cafeteria or the HVAC.
Right.
So what are these numbers?
The first column is hallway addition.
Mhm.
That's the 675,000. That was what we said no to. The main electrical upgrade, that's 1.1. But that also includes the cost of the generator.
Oh, so these haven't been adjusted.
These have
So,
not been adjusted.
so these are gonna actually come down, I think, quite a bit.
Yes, yeah. And then the vocational building, that's the whole thing. That's
But
not,
it's
just a show.
missing HVAC and the kitchen cafeteria
Right,
numbers
right.
in this original amount.
Right.
right,
So
because we don't have full bids on those yet.
But the fees coming down, that'll make room for the HVAC system.
Yep.
Do we know what a roundabouts is? That is? Have they given you?
I would ask, CB Construction is on here. I would ask them that question because I could not begin to throw numbers at you. So do we need to unmute them?
No, they made him a co-host so he can unmute himself.
Okay. Andy, are you there? Are you sure we don't have to do something?
Where did it?
As a co-host. he should be.
I was muted, but it said Alt A, so I'm with you now.
Okay, thanks, Andy.
Hold-
Did you hear the
Let me
question?
see if I can quiet my alarm. See? Sorry, my dog's well trained. She knows if she barks, she gets a treat.
Okay, hi, Scott.
Hi.
So Andy, did you hear the question?
I did not. I was
Okay.
crunching some numbers here.
The question was, what is our estimates on HVAC? They're just kind of wanting a roundabout figure. I said, I have no idea what to even throw at them.
And I'm going to beg apologies. I'm in the boat with you. I have no idea. I've not seen drawings or details on that yet. And in my time with the company, going on 3 months now, I've not seen or even been talking about HVAC until the last couple of days.
Because that's
So-
one of the contractors we're having troubles getting is mechanical, correct?
And that was for the VOC only. Yeah.
Yeah.
The rough numbers on this projects list from April 12th is 600,000 would be full classroom and gymnasium HVAC upgrade.
So I can give you a updated engineer's estimate based on kind of what we're seeing as far as bidding environment. They're thinking that, again, we're almost done with those drawings. So we can get it over to CB for bidding, but they're thinking between 750 and 800.
For HVAC.
Yeah.
Now, does that,
include the gym?
does that include AC in the gym or fresh air as we talked about the other night?
Fresh air in the gym, and then AC in the classrooms and the balance of the building.
Okay.
So no AC in the gym.
No AC in the gym. It should be the fresh air.
It'd be a night flush approach. Very similar to what Keenan does now, and he comes in early and flips the fans on.
Yeah.
But it would be automated to initiate when the temperature's the lowest at night, to do that automatically.
Good. Does that answer your question?
Yep.
Okay. Good question.
Thank you.
That's really all I have, Madam Chair.
Okay, so, excuse me. So, so Scott, do you and your contractor have any information on our agenda? Any new stuff besides what we just spoke about?
So we have, I did check the citizens access portal on Acela, which is what Sean was talking to regarding the permitting. It looks like the county has not, as of 5 minutes ago, updated the status of the intersection. So, but we do have, I did reach out and talk to the building department, and they have no comments on any of our plans. So what that means is once the county basically releases the intersection work, permits will be released immediately. So there's that. And in regards to what we talked about on Monday regarding the costs and the revised numbers, that's a CB question. But from the design end standpoint, I am working on revising the drawings for the hallway to include the panel room only and excluding the hallway. So we're working on that right now to try to save some money there. And I've reached out to our electrical engineer to see if there's anything that we need to do as far as the electrical design to remove the generator or make it an alternate. So we've kind of initiated what we talked about on Monday to try to get the numbers down and get CB Construction some revised documents so they can put real numbers to.
May I ask one question? With the changes to the hallway, are we going to have to go back into the permitting, or is that still going to be covered under our permit?
That's a great question. So, and I know that you're kind of feeding off the VOC building. So the hallway is a very straightforward approach. So if we reduce what a lot of the review process on the hallway is firewalls and separation of the building, because right now the school is not fire sprinkled. So in order to add on to it, I had to do some tricky stuff to the hallway to get it so that we didn't get in trouble. Okay. So if we back that out and simplify it, we can just do a plan modification at that point because it reduces the health, life, safety factor of how they review it. So it's a simple thing. We say, okay, we're not doing the hallway, we're punching a door and it goes outside. From a code standpoint, they look at that as like, okay, you're adding egress to something. And as long as it goes outside, it doesn't, that is a better situation than going in a hallway and going outside. So we can do that modification through a plan modification because it's a simple program. As opposed to what the VOC building is there's lots of different design and code implications that would have to be addressed if anything changed. Does that make sense?
Yes, thank you very much.
Sure.
Just want to make sure.
No, it's a good question.
I apologize ahead of time. I think we're wasting time on these meetings. We need to concentrate on what we know has to be done rather than what we think can be done. We know we need the electrical upgrade. We know we need the HVAC. We know we need the panel. Let's quit talking about what we can alter to save money, what we can do this, that. Let's concentrate on what we have, that we can do. We know we can, we have. It's having Scott continually going over different numbers and working this and working that to see where we can save money. Let's just get them rolling with stuff.
Well, I think you do that, but you can also do the other at the same time.
As long as they're not taking the time
Right.
out of the other.
Right.
It just seems like in all these meetings, we continually go over the same exact thing every time. We don't.
I agree.
Yeah, our priorities
we need-
haven't changed at all from the beginning, really, but there's minor tweaks, but fairly simple, like we're not gonna get a generator, so that's saving money out of that budget, but still move forward with the
Right,
electrical.
and that's what I'm saying. We
Yeah,
have those conversations.
yeah.
but The rest, we know right now.
So are you
can't
saying
afford.
let's more or less kind of mix the hallway thing instead
I
of keep
absolutely
going
say
back,
Don't even worry about the whole.
instead
we
of going
should
back
get
and
a-
forth
we
and
should
just
get a-
present that
Get
to
the
the board?
HVAC, get the electrical.
HVAC, we know we have to have. We
Yeah,
have to have the upgrade for the
Right.
panel and the power for it.
right.
And you have to have a VOC before you can have a hallway.
I mean, that's my pick.
In Keenan's defense, he is, and I've watched him work since I've been here, is he's very, very astute on getting the job done. And
Right.
that's the way he works. And I
Well, and-
appreciate that. I really, really do. And I think he
Well, that's-
brings up some good points. You know, we don't want to be wasting our time and their time, because every time we have a meeting, it does take them
Right.
time to prepare for these things. But I agree with you also. It still, I think, behooves us to be discussing these things without capitalizing on their
I
time.
think
So,
they need the green light to
know.
go on those projects, because those have to be done first.
yes,
They
No
know
matter
we
what you do.
want, they know what we want.
yep.
No, for power, no generator. Everything else,
No
we're
hallway.
saying no hallway. Give them the green light to go, and then we can meet and figure out what our priorities are with the remaining
Our
funds.
kids aren't gonna melt in the rain. They've been out in the rain
Yeah.
their whole lives.
The hallway was just a fancy way to get to. I
Right.
think you know,
So,
Well, we hope we have.
maybe it's something.
We hope we have.
I just think discussion is healthy.
Yeah.
Oh, it is healthy.
It is.
So we
It's
really
just
feel like
healthy.
we've
It is.
just
I don't
been
want to waste
chasing
their
our
time, but
tails.
discussion is healthy.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, because different ideas come from different people. So,
Mhm.
so not to be blunt, but I a little bit disagree with you.
That's what we're here for. You can disagree on
Yeah,
that, but
exactly.
that's-
And
that
sometimes-
stays that
We need to
beat
get
this
going.
dog
Yeah, but because
Yeah.
we're not
around.
doing
Yeah.
anything, we keep discussing the same things,
Mhm.
like you said, and we're not getting
Well, I think
anywhere.
well,
the first step was getting the board on the same page as us, which I think happened on Monday.
Yes.
I'm
It's
a
the
little
priority.
bummed that more people weren't here that couldn't make it there, so we had a little bit more community involved discussion. But I think we can all speak for them enough that our decisions that we made Monday were sufficient.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
Yeah.
let's keep
I really see
charging ahead.
we had some great accomplishments on Monday. One is we answered some options type questions that keep floating around, like what if we just sent the money back to the voters? It's not that simple, as we learned.
And expensive.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's expensive. You know, the other is, gee, what if we just threw up a building? Well, we kind of answered that one too. And those are important things to communicate. And that's why Sarah is here, and Sarah is our new public information officer, and we want to be communicating these things to the public, to the community. So that's a big function of this bond oversight committee. Now, how we capture Scott's time and Andy's time, I would tend to agree with Keena. You know, they already have the green light now. The board voted, you know, the other night, and we stayed with the same types of priorities, just we're gonna have to make modifications to make them work. Can we get a kitchen cafeteria? Don't know yet. You know,
Right.
let's move forward
So
and see
with
where
us
things go.
discussing this hallway issue, though, the board has to, you know, be informed, and they have
Of
to
course.
agree upon that.
Of
also.
course, of course.
So that can happen next week, yes?
Their meeting is next week.
Their
Our
meeting
meeting is
Thursday.
next
Yes,
week.
next Thursday.
So then what you guys decide will come to the board
Right.
and as a whole, then we'll
You
discuss
guys
it.
will make the
So
decision.
that's
Mhm.
one new change from Monday. We're mixing the hallway.
So is that what the bond oversight committee is proposing? There probably needs to be a
Yes.
motion and a
Well, I
second
think
and
we
a
need
vote.
to have some
Right.
more discussion in our,
They're still working on numbers.
They're still working on numbers.
We don't know what the numbers are.
No,
That's the biggest holdup on that hallway or the breezeway or whatever. I mean, if the breezeway comes in and it's only $15,000, $20,000 for a breezeway,
easy peasy.
right,
But
then it's a mute point. But I agree with you with the hallway. I mean, we already kind of said no hallway.
Yeah,
We want to do a breezeway and see what that cost looks like before we say no breezeway.
I agree with you. Well, all I'm saying right now is we're looking at $2 million for the electrical upgrade and VOC. We know that for a fact.
No, because there's the generator coming out of the electrical.
What I'm
And if
saying
we only
is
do a
we can-
shell on the VOC, then you could be cutting $1 million.
Mhm.
but we don't know that. We know any of these. So that's all I'm saying is just let's work with these. I'm gonna try to.
And I
Yes,
think, yeah, and you go through that list of this is what we have to have, and you say, okay, here we go.
Then these numbers could be higher. Look at our,
They won't be higher
they won't be.
because
hurt.
you're cutting.
oh, we
We're
are
cutting,
cutting, that's
yes.
right.
Well, isn't Derek supposed to have some of those numbers tomorrow? 48 hours tomorrow.
I don't know. Is Derek on?
Yes.
Hi,
Oh,
Derek.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. He's not on. He's gone. He's
Okay,
vacation for the next couple of days.
so Andy, did you hear that question?
I did, and the closest I have is what Derek assembled tonight just before the meeting, which is basically a compilation of what we already have. What you're seeing right now, we just put it into a bigger spreadsheet that's side by side.
So to chime in on this a little bit, we're the design team side, what we're doing is we're approaching it as what do we absolutely need to have, right? Determining wants and needs is always a challenge for everybody. Like what's really necessary, what's really not necessary, what do we perceive as being like super important? So from our side, the hallway redesign will be to, and this is what I'm going to do, is we're gonna lay out just the panel room, because we need to have that for the power upgrade. That's like non-negotiable. We have to do that. Okay, so we will have that. And then we can put a number in for a covered walkway as an alternate. So we can have the contractor pull two numbers for that. So we can get an idea of what that would be. And so we can either say yay or nay. And the way that we configure the bidding configuration is that we can actually know what those two separate numbers are. So we're kind of proceeding like, okay, the VOC is approved. That piece has to happen for anything else to happen as far as the cafeteria, the kitchen, because we have programs that we have to move around. So that piece is gone and going. Now, whatever level that gets completed, that can kind of float out there because we have a little bit of time as far as, because we have to put the foundation, we have to do earthwork, we have to put the walls up, right? So we can kind of go along there. In the meantime, what we'll be doing is we will be re-looking at the hallway and saying, okay, this is where the panel room needs to go. Do we want to do canopy or not? We can get a separate number for that. And then as things progress, then we can adjust what the direction is. Because if you look at the budgets, there's contingency numbers in there, and there's also allowance numbers. Contingencies at 10%. So on the, and that's a safe thing to do. You have to say, okay, when you look at that budget, you say 10%, stuff could go down, and there could be some weird stuff, like we find a buried Volkswagen or something, or there's something under the ground, or there's some unintended, undetermined things that we need to deal with. But if all goes well, a lot of that contingency will go back into the general number. So at $2 million, 10% is $200,000. So what my experience has been when we go through this process, the CMGC, at the end of the VOC project, or at a certain point, you start reducing that. Once you get out of the ground, once you get the foundations and start going, then a lot of the things, the unknowns, because they're buried, go away. And so then you can start pulling back that contingency number. Okay. So what will happen is that contingency, as it decreases, will go back into the budget, and then we can make different decisions. And that's a pretty common approach. So this is an okay way to do this, is what I'm saying. I feel comfortable with, okay, we get rolling on this. We basically water down each of the other projects as much as we need to, as far as for functionality. And then there'll be a point in time where we can say, okay, we're this far along here. This is how much we have. This is what we anticipate this being. And then we can rejigger things in order to make the best decision for everybody.
So I guess maybe to kind of fall in line with what Keenan said, we made our recommendation Monday for the plan moving forward. We don't have modification numbers, so really there's no point in being here until we see more solid figures for the three main priorities, to where we can even begin to look at what we have left to play with for other projects. So agreed. I think we made the decision we are gathered here to make, and there's really no other decisions to make until we have more accurate numbers.
We were hoping we were gonna get some numbers today, remember?
Yeah, but he still has till tomorrow.
Yes. 48 hours.
48 hours, one more day.
I'm curious though why we're still talking about the breezeway. We're not doing the cafeteria right now.
I don't think we're
I
really
don't
talking
think
about the
we're-
breezeway.
I don't think that was a final decision quite yet. Because I think that there could be potential options that we can look at if we
Depending
don't
if we have
fill
money.
the VOC building
Yeah.
and just do the shell to get more of what we want. I don't know. I just don't know that we're ready to look that
bag it.
far.
Mhm.
I don't,
And
I'm not ready to give
And I
up
think
on
what I
it.
heard Scott say is we're gonna focus on the panel room, but then we can get some numbers for
Right.
the breezeway, as things progress, but looks like we have money to spend on that.
And the breezeway is something that you could do, should be something that you could do after everything else is finished and done,
Good.
For what reason?
if the cafeteria is there. If.
Well,
That's
I'm
a
sorry.
big if though.
It
with the
is.
numbers
There's
we're
a
looking at, you know
breezeway
what I mean?
But we don't know
this
what the numbers
way.
are.
Okay,
That's the biggest thing.
where does the weather come from? So it's all gonna go in the breezeway, they're gonna get wet in,
Yeah,
Depends on how wide
and
it
the
is.
south. The south and the west is where we get most of our weather. And if it's a breezeway, it's not gonna stop that weather.
You mean rain doesn't fall vertically all the time?
So.
No, here it blows
It's
sideways.
Yes, I know.
That's just my.
no, it's okay. I just didn't. wanna-
Yeah, I apologize. We do have a guest here, and I didn't ask for patrons' comments.
He's a staff, but-
He's part of us.
This is Bart.
Oh,
This is
He's our
Bart.
athletic director, but we do have.
Hello, Bart.
We might have patron comments.
hello. Did you have any voice here? Did you want to say?
Keep the VOC building shop where it is. Don't just fix it outside the wall for some.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's got.
Wall. And then I'm new here, but is it ever, I see what you're saying, why didn't you build that? You know, down the road. Well, cafeteria, there's a- What about right now, just a walkway from there? Get to the shop. How do we get to the shop now? If our kids come around? The other side, to the shop.
They're supposed
All
to
that
come
out there
around.
will be comfortable.
No matter what, so just that door.
Are there any other comments? I apologize. I didn't
Is there
see
anybody
that
online?
person
Is
back
anybody
there.
online with patron comment?
They probably can't do anything.
They can't, you wouldn't say, please.
I can't even tell. Is there people online?
Robert, and Ryan and Carrie.
Oh,
All right, thanks, Bart.
Thanks, Bart.
good night. Okay. All right. So do we
Back
have
to
any
our
other
discussion.
questions back to the discussion of with the contractor and Scott? Do we need any?
Not unless there's something else that Scott and Andy want to add to the conversation. I think you heard they're working on things and things are in transit right now. We're waiting on the final permitting.
We
The
do know a list of contractors was sent to Scott, Andy, for some ideas of people to contact, so
Good.
hopefully.
Yeah. Is that Richard there in the back?
Yep.
You're my hero. Thank you very much for all those names.
Hopefully somebody
with-
was,
Spoke with Mechanical yesterday and was reaching out to the rest of the list today. So that it's been a huge help.
well, if you need more, let me know.
Will do. Thank you.
Thank you. Didn't know you did that. Appreciate it.
Okay. Is there any other discussion? Okay.
I just think that we have to see numbers before we throw anything out. I think we have a direction that we're gonna go. And I think in the back of our mind, we all know what that direction is gonna be, and there probably won't be a hallway, there probably won't be a door,
Probably won't be a cafeteria.
probably won't be a cafeteria, but we can't give up on it just yet.
So here's the thing. So by the time we get these numbers, we will not be meeting. You know what I mean? To bring our ideas.
Why couldn't we?
Well, unless we have a special, because
well, we
aren't they,
have
they're supposed to get them within like 48 hours, within this week
I
or
think-
so, or next week.
What I was thinking was maybe like Monday, maybe BOC can come a half an hour before our board meeting if we have more information. Talk like we did this week and then have
we
our
have more.
regular board meeting.
That's why I put in the agenda, there potentially could be, with big changes and stuff having to
Hope not.
happen, there could be.
Okay.
more meetings called
No,
for.
no, on our regular board meeting next week.
Oh, you said Monday.
I said like Monday,
Well,
like
the-
Monday.
She
The
did say
board
like
meeting
Monday.
for September is
did.
earlier than normal, it feels, so technically our next scheduled meeting still falls in August,
Right.
But
so.
I think we should meet before the board does.
I thought that was really helpful to go into our meeting.
Uh-huh.
As a board member, I felt a little more informed and I have to say, I feel a little better about our bond and what's going on. And so meeting prior to the board meeting was helpful for me.
Good. Okay, then we can do that. I apologize. I will not be here. I'm sorry. I have shoulder surgery tomorrow.
Oh,
Oh.
I have a full rotator cuff.
Holy
That's
mackerel.
gonna be
maybe you'll
going
make
on.
funny noises at us online.
Yeah, really. In the squeaky wheel.
Well, you could
So,
always,
I'm
get
sorry.
lonely and visit us via Zoom.
Yes, I could. Depending, yes, on how I feel. I
Yeah.
don't know. So anyway, okay, so we will make the notation that the BOC will be meeting prior to the board meeting.
Do you guys have a work session scheduled already for Monday?
I don't think we do.
For
Do we,
Thursday.
Shirley?
Thursday.
That's the board meeting Thursday. but-
Thursdays is work. We don't have any work.
We only
don't
work
have any
sessions
other
scheduled.
sessions.
So maybe get a hold of Christine and see what she thinks.
Do you
I
want,
already-
do you want
know.
another joint work session?
I think
Between the
it,
board
I
and the
think it
VOC?
was,
If the
if we
numbers are
have,
presented,
If
yeah,
we have numbers?
yeah,
potentially
We
we
could.
could look at it together before you guys.
Do we
Why
have
don't you
Here,
your
mention
let
that
me-
to
session.
Christine
I
the
will
day
do it
before?
right
You wanna
now.
do it that day? Everybody
I
finds
already
out whatever.
emailed her the file.
So can I ask a quick question? So from what my understanding is, as far as the VOC building budget number, and Andy, please chime in, that number is, if you had to go out and say, this is the guaranteed maximum price with the allowances in it, would that be a good number to consider for our budget? Because the VOC building's been out the longest.
The biggest concern I have with saying yes to that is the unknown on the mechanical side.
Okay,
The rest of those, I don't think are an issue.
okay. So for the board, the number on the VOC is probably pretty close. If you consider what if you look at what the 10%, overage and stuff, that's probably $2 million is probably a pretty good number. Okay. The things that are up in the air are the redesign of the hallway.
Right.
And then how much the subtraction of the generator impacts. So without the VOC, we can't do anything else. We can't do the kitchen and cafeteria. We know we have to do the power upgrade regardless. So basically the way it shakes out is power upgrade minus the generator. It is what it is. We've decided, to say, okay, let's do that. So that number is going to come in and it's going to be fixed. The VOC is about $2 million. And then once we get a number for just the electrical room, we'll know where we land there. Whatever's left over after all those three things happen, because we've all kind of decided that's what we want to do, then we can look at that pot of money and see how we can address the kitchen and the cafeteria. Does that make sense?
It's like a plan to me.
The one number for the $2 million for the VOC, and that's the completed finished product, not just the shell, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
That's correct. The definition of what the shell is and when we stop, that's the thing that we need to talk about later.
yeah.
And it might, and the decision on where that happens will depend on what happens with the hallway and the electrical upgrade, and then how everything else shakes out. So that is a thing that we can adjust back and forth as we move forward. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the only way I can think of logically to keep things rolling and actually get some stuff done and then make an educated decision as we move forward.
But the VOC has to be completed to some level to be
Signed off. on.
occupancy, right?
So that is correct. So if it's the city has, or typically counties have like a shell and a core or full complete. Now, the options is if you want to bring it to a certain level, you can extend the permit out multiple months.
Right.
Okay. So at some point, if we're like, hey, it's all enclosed. Okay, and we want to stop and focus over here, we can file for multiple extensions on the permit and buy us more time on that end.
But it doesn't get you to occupiable space. It just
That's
postpones
correct.
the occupancy.
That's correct. All it does is buy us time.
Right.
So
So
we
I just wanted to make that statement so that everybody knew that it's not just a shell and then it's usable.
Correct.
It has to be to a certain level before you can actually use it as a classroom or
Right.
anything else.
Mhm.
Very good point.
So,
Yeah, all it does is buy us a little time and maybe gives us some other options that maybe we're not thinking of right now.
right.
That is something that we can pursue later on if it seems like something that would benefit us in a different way.
But money wise, you're not going to be saving a lot of money if you just do a shell and expect it to be occupied.
Correct.
I mean, you got to be at some point, so it may be $1.7 million or whatever, instead of the $2 million. So you're not gonna be saving half of that.
Right, and the problem therein again lies with the shell. So
Right.
in the construction terms, if you do a shell and core, it's basically a box that's protected from the weather, but no interior improvements are there. And when it's a shell and core building, then if somebody wants to lease the space and make it like a coffee shop or something, then that's when they go in and they do an improvement to it. So that's a pretty industry standard approach. So if we go to a shell and core portion, we could say that the improvement portion would be the shop, but that would be a logistical stopping point for the county to view it as they understand what that means. So the definition of what that means needs to be defined, and we can do that. We can do that later. But I think it's just important to keep the inertia going and starting to do that, because again, without that VOC building, everything downstream from it doesn't happen.
One other thing to consider as well, if you, when considering the shell, if you take all that finish budget and reassign it to, let's say it's the cafeteria in this case, you're taking the cost of that finish work in today's dollars, using it someplace else, and then who knows how much further down the road you're going to be in a position to build that out. But costs are more likely not going to go down. They're going to continue to escalate. So what might cost $1 today might cost you $1.25 5 years from now or more. So
it was also discussed the potential of utilizing it as a VOC project, that some of the students could learn the construction trade and do some of that finishing inside. And there's grants and opportunities available to help fund some of that elsewhere as well. So, I mean, we don't want to lose sight of that opportunity for our kids either.
You just have to have occupancy is the main thing.
Right.
And you got to get to that point. That's where that VOC building has to get to, no matter what.
So I have a question about that though, too, about, liability and our kids
We
doing
can
things like
use-
that.
Obviously,
It's
they
not
can't
structural.
get final sign off.
It can't be structural.
Correct.
There's
Could
other
be
districts that
interior.
have done it. We could always ask questions
Yeah, they
to
build
them.
houses in La Grande,
Mhm.
in Baker City.
I believe Bart said at the meeting on Monday, like in Toledo.
Yeah.
They did a lot of the finish work on the inside of their VOC building.
Yeah.
The students did. So we can always
Okay.
seek information from other districts
Yeah.
that have done that.
Yeah.
To see.
So
how that-
what you have to do is you have to get put a curriculum together and make it a class, and then you can justify the means to finish it. And I've been with other districts that have done that.
I think that would be a great
perfect.
opportunity.
Oh, that's good,
I
yeah.
think our kids would love it.
Oh,
Perfect.
absolutely.
Could be a long project.
Well,
It
kind of-
could be, but look at the pride and the ownership they would in turn have for the buildings versus what you deal with now when there is no pride.
Well, and for years to come, when they get to our age, they're gonna be,
I
we did that.
I made that.
Yeah.
They
so
might even be
somehow.
able to put their handprints in
Yep.
something.
I think that's a great idea.
Well, it's like the mural down there on the wall.
Yeah,
Yeah.
It was done in '98.
I think that's a great idea. I would
I
love
just
to see
think-
that.
I think they would have a lot more respect for what Keenan runs around and does around here. And who knows, somebody might fall in love with it and be the next big contractor.
Yep.
On the next school's bond.
Great idea.
If you have students who are in that mode or in that mindset, I'd love to know who they are, and I'd love to invite them to come tag along. Come shadow. Let's get them some advanced knowledge on how construction works.
That's a
Mr.
great
Gallagher, is
idea.
that something you can help facilitate?
Yes, we can. I think
I'm sure
Scott
there's
is
a lot of
correct,
them.
though. We have to have some curriculum. We have to have some CTE certification on something like that. We could.
I think we have a great resource with Bart.
But
being
you know,
involved.
I remember when both the boys, their senior project, they went and worked
Mhm.
with, you know, we didn't even have to have a curriculum. It was, what was their, it was their senior project.
That is a curriculum, though.
They don't do that anymore?
Yes, they do. My boys did it.
They don't do senior projects.
What?
No,
Yeah,
not the last.
No, it was
not
just
Not the
last
last, not
Oh,
since
was?
COVID.
Oh,
Let's see, I know. I'm old.
okay, I'm with you, Cheryl, because my kids did it too.
Yeah, no, they haven't done it the past few years.
Oh, that's a bummer. I think they should totally do it. It was a huge learning lesson.
Yeah.
A year later.
Okay, well, anyway,
Back to the,
so back to our discussion, sorry. So
Sidetracked.
we do that sometimes, don't we? So does anybody else have to say? Because I guess,
You got one
Go
more
ahead.
option. to that. Watch the hallway completely, cover breezeway and everything. And concentrate on doing it. I know.
Well, that was
The
kind of
windows-
discussed on Monday and it was already decided. So I really think where we are right now is where we are. And then once we get these done, then look at what's left over.
So is the district now gonna pay 100,000 plus for new windows that have to be replaced? They're all
There's
single
lots of
pane?
grants out there.
We have
So I-
money. It's a-
So I think maybe what Keenan's saying is, you know, we need to pull the trigger on the VOC because it's the piece of the puzzle.
Yeah.
And then move forward with that and then adjust as we need to, utilizing shell and core, different classes to complete certain finished items. But we need to lock down that portion and say, okay, yes, we're going to proceed as is, go forward, because we need to have that piece. We can adjust the scope later if we need to, and then we'll get the two different numbers for the power upgrade and the hallway, and then that will help us make a more educated decision down the road on what we need to do. Is that right?
so is that what you're saying, Keenan, is more or less not make that one of the priorities right
I'm
now?
saying just don't even think about the hallway. or code. And put that time and effort and money into replacing the windows. in school.
You're
Windows are
looking,
pretty
okay,
important.
you're looking at putting a whole new HVAC system
Yes,
in,
this is right.
heating, air conditioning,
So,
whatever. And you put these old windows here, you're gonna be putting more money out for electricity to keep the place
Well, we
hot.
talked about that already,
And
and I get
then
that.
you're gonna be more, it's gonna be less efficient than what's supposed to be.
Yeah. We talked about that. two
That's
meetings
something
ago.
I think that we're aware of, but there was also talk about grants being submitted for that and it not being a part of the current plan. It wasn't even in the plan
for the windows.
from.
Yes,
It
get-go.
was
was.
select.
For a partial.
Remember, it was select.
For a partial.
Well, and
One
as,
side of a building.
South.
it was the south side.
and as he stated, you know, that's something that can be done in-house and not a part of the project to take the
Right,
monies
we could do
from.
one room at a time.
Yeah.
Because once you start a project,
We
it
need
has to be
to
the whole
focus on what
room.
you guys have already approved and
Right.
recommended to the board. And then once that's all completed, whatever money's left over,
On
can,
that-
you guys can go back to the drawing board and go, okay, well, we have this much money. What are we gonna do?
And I think that would be a decision that we would make when we have the numbers to see what
Correct.
we could save by not doing a hallway or breezeway or whatever.
I mean, I'm with you guys. The windows are super
Yeah.
important.
Well, so was everything else that was
Exactly,
Promised.
promised on this and trying to
exactly.
do, I mean, it's a juggling act. I mean, you could spend the whole thing on the existing shell of the school and not spend anything on anything else.
Mhm,
You know, and be in the same building we have now.
mhm,
If you remodel the whole thing.
mhm.
I just see windows as more of a necessity.
Well,
I-
I'm not
Especially
disagreeing.
I agree.
Right.
So let's just, okay,
So-
we'll just, as soon as we get the numbers, then we can
Mhm.
make that
So- Something that I would,
decision.
something that I would like to see that wasn't talked about is occupancy level of the VOC. What would that cost be? The bare minimum to have it occupied so the kids could actually have class in there.
What's the, Scott, do you have an answer on that?
Not yet.
Well, it depends on what you want the space to be occupied for.
Right.
So,
Obviously, occupancy
so a welding shop has different requirements than a classroom.
Right.
So as it sits now, I would feel relatively comfortable to say, if you want it to have a classroom and as designed, it will be $2 million or less. Now, the amount of HVAC equipment, everything that's included as far as what it needs to be a shop, subtracting that out, I don't know what that number would be. I don't imagine it would save a whole heck of a lot. Because we've gone through what 3 or 4 iterations of this, and it's pretty VE'd out. Like this is bare minimum,
Right.
So it's, I don't know, but I'm just saying that if you look at it as like it's going to be $2 million or less, probably a safe assumption.
This was still numbers with equipment, right? Welders and whatnot, or is that already taken out?
Couldn't hear you.
I'm not seeing that in here anywhere.
Your original cost had welders and all that stuff.
Yeah, this was the original, right? This was the whole planned out thing with all the
Stations.
stations and.
2 million is with or without the welders and equipment.
It's, I believe that spreadsheet that with the most current one has everything included.
This right here.
I think you're talking
I
about
just
this
don't
one.
Oh,
see
that
where
one.
stuff is listed.
Well, that's what I was just looking at. We have concrete, metal.
It wasn't listed. It's not.
So then it's supposed to be a
Thermal
number
opening,
Where?
finishes.
It doesn't say equipment or anything. See where,
Yeah, it doesn't.
see where it says.
Yeah, nothing there's there for equipment
Mm-mm.
or furnishings.
Yeah,
Just the plumbing, the HVAC, electrical and earth excavation.
Mhm. Utilities, well, no, nothing there.
Well, it has finishes,
Yeah, but that's
Openings.
just,
the
tile
inside.
floor
yeah, yeah.
painting.
right.
Yeah, this does not include,
Countertop, casework.
it does not include contents.
So I believe the documents show the welding booths in there. They're pre-manufactured, but as far as the welders and those sorts of things go,
Mhm.
those are owner supplied.
Okay.
Okay,
So basically anything an easy way to think about this is that if it's built in, then it would be in the plans. And if it's something that you can carry in and plug in, like, okay, we're going to bring this piece of equipment in and plug it in, then it's not. And the reason is because if you can, the thought process is if you can purchase that through a different budget or whatever, then there's no successive markup on anything. We avoid the prevailing wage, we avoid everything. So anything that's not integral to the building for the construction, and you can bring in like a welding cart and like an arc welder, for example, you'll pay what the number is. Oregon law says, okay, anything that's provided goes through a prevailing wage and successive like markup scheme, like not a scheme, but a markup levels. So you'll be paying more for it. So I never put that stuff in there because it's cheaper for the district to buy it direct. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
and there's under other funding sources we can tap into for equipment.
So
And
did you
furniture.
ever see this?
For the CTE program, so.
Yeah, in the very beginning.
Yeah. So all these
So-
bays, all
Cookie
these
time.
stations.
The bays would be included.
Included.
The welders that go in the bays would
Are
not.
not.
The paint
Right.
booth would be built in yet, or the.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's built
Yeah.
in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the tables would not be part of
Right.
the bond
So all
or
of
with
this
the
stuff.
stations.
Yeah.
Yeah, we would be providing that as a district
Okay. Got it.
and
Yeah.
or tapping into
That's
other
right.
funding sources.
Right.
There's Perkins
Right.
dollars. There's also, I think, some state dollars that allow you that
Well,
can
the
contribute
Yeah.
to.
The CTE program, if they have something, they bring it out and give it to the school to
Okay.
Yep.
have ownership until they don't want it anymore, and then they have to
Yep.
give it back.
Yep.
Oh.
So like a sawmill and stuff, it's
Yeah.
gonna be provided from.
Yep.
The CTE program.
There's other sources.
So a lot of that equipment can be provided at no cost.
Okay. Any more discussion, guys? I think we're just really waiting on numbers.
Mhm.
like always.
So I'll keep you guys posted. If we have numbers, then I think it'd be good to have a work session, but if we don't have numbers,
It was
there's no
good.
reason for us to.
Monday was good.
It was very
So-
good, I thought.
The
Yeah.
only thing about Monday that I don't think was beneficial was that it was so
It was board
sudden. We weren't able to get other people together to have discussions. It almost felt a little blindsided.
Mhm.
So,
Like tonight, we
Well, I
actually
think
discussed
everybody
more
was.
about it than we did Monday,
Mhm.
right.
to be honest.
So if you want our true and honest
Mhm.
feedback
Always.
as a group and time to get community input from, outside constituents, then we actually need time to meet before we present to you, before we meet with you. So,
I felt personally that our meeting was more informational for all of us because they had some stuff to talk about. So I didn't think it was, you guys come and we meet and make decisions. I felt that it was way more informational.
well, I just think we made a fairly quick, I still think it's correct one, but we just made a fairly quick priority decision, whereas, in discussion tonight, windows came back up again, and it kind of did on Monday, but that was more of a complete leftover, which we all know that there's not going to be anything left over. So, but the fact that we have people amongst our committee that still feel that windows may need to be prioritized higher than what they are, we weren't given that opportunity. It was kind of a rushed decision. I think we're still on track, but I think you'd get more valuable input if we had more time to discuss amongst ourselves.
Well, and then I think it would be less time for you guys as well. You'd still get the same information, but you would have
Have
to go
us
through
bouncing around.
the work session type thing.
So in my opinion, working around each other and bouncing ideas, I think is really healthy and it just really pulls out different opinions and I found it
Well, I'm not
helpful.
saying we won't be there.
Oh, I
But
thought
we
you
had
were
no,
saying that.
we had no idea what we were
we
expecting,
didn't
what
see
the plan was
anything.
that was.
I
what
didn't
that was
either.
for,
Right.
so we
I was
didn't
gonna
even
say, I
have
don't think, nobody did.
Right.
It was
No, I
like
don't.
an
Didn't even have a
emergency, like a
chance to talk
like
to our
off the
constituents,
cuff
you know.
meeting for everybody.
It was. It was.
So,
Just to get, because they had a whole bunch of stuff that they wanted to give to us. And I think as a whole, the BOC and the board, I think it was just really
No,
important.
I think it was a good meeting. I just think it could have potentially been better had we had an opportunity to get some more feedback. But I know time is of the essence too,
Yeah.
so, and getting meetings together is a challenge,
24 is soon.
really soon.
Real soon. And we've already lost how many days?
Oh, almost 2 years, year and a half.
Well,
For sure.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
The motion is made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Thanks a lot, guys.
Thanks,
Bye.
guys. See ya.
Okay, so I guess then I know.
Good luck on
Good
your
luck.
surgery.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll keep you in my prayers.
Yeah.
Do you have an iPhone?
Do I have an iPhone? Yeah.
We could FaceTime.
No, thank you. I don't.
Well, you don't have to be on there,
Oh.
but that way we could talk in here and
Oh,
hear
yeah.
what you have to say, and you
Sure.
wouldn't have to be here, you wouldn't have to be on.
You couldn't be on Zoom. You don't have to be.
Right.